Have you ever reached out to touch the man you love and felt something you didn't expect? No spark, no warmth rising through his body, no sense of life waking up beneath your hand, just stillness. And in that quiet moment, a small voice inside you wondered, is it me? Is something wrong? Is our connection fading? If you've ever felt that, I want you to stay with me, because what I'm about to share may change the way you see intimacy forever. The real reason so many women over 50 notice a shift in a man's response isn't because the love has changed or because attraction has disappeared. It's because, as men age, their bodies stop reacting to the obvious kinds of touch. What once sparked instantly now needs a different kind of invitation, a softer signal, a more intentional beginning. And here is the part almost no woman knows. There is a small, hidden spot on a man's body that, when touched the right way, can awaken his circulation, his nerve pathways, and his desire before intimacy even begins. It's not his penis. It's not anywhere sexual or obvious. It's a quiet point just below his lower abdomen that functions almost like an ignition switch for arousal as men grow older. I'm Dr. Lily Stones, a board-certified gynecologist with over 30 years of experience helping women navigate menopause, aging, and the deeper emotional layers of intimacy that often shift in long-term relationships. And I want to tell you something empowering. You are not losing your touch. Your partner is not losing interest. His body is simply operating differently now. And once you understand how to work with that change, instead of fighting against it, everything begins to come alive again. Women tell me every week, Lisa, he just feels distant, like he's there but not fully present, not fully responding. And I always say the same thing. When a man passes 50, arousal doesn't start where it used to. It starts deeper, slower, and more quietly in the places most women never think to touch. Before we go deeper, I would truly love to know where you're watching from. Women from all across the United States, Canada, the UK, and Australia join me here. Drop your city or state in the comments. I love seeing the beautiful community of women over 50 who are reclaiming their confidence and learning to enjoy intimacy on their own terms. Now, here's the promise I want to make to you. By the time we finish this video, you'll understand exactly why his body reacts differently now, where that hidden spot is, why it works, and how a gentle, intentional touch can help him respond with more strength, more warmth, and more connection than he has in years. Because intimacy after 50 isn't about doing more, it's about knowing more. And the moment you understand what's happening inside his body, the guilt and confusion you've been feeling start to fade. Instead, you gain clarity, confidence, and a new level of influence in the relationship. What we're about to explore is not a trick or a performance technique. It's a doorway back into emotional closeness. And before you can activate that hidden spot, you first need to understand the internal changes shaping his responses, not emotionally, but biologically. Once you see what's shifting beneath the surface, everything else starts to make sense. And that's exactly where we're going next. Let's step inside the aging male body so you can finally understand what truly changed and why your touch now has more power than ever before. To truly understand why this hidden spot works so powerfully, you first need to understand what is quietly changing inside an aging male body. Many women believe that a man's desire is simple, consistent, and predictable across his entire life. But it isn't. And once you see what actually shifts inside him after 50, the whole picture becomes clearer, even compassionate. Inside every man's body is a complex system of hormones, nerve pathways, blood vessels, and emotional triggers that all work together to create arousal. When he was younger, those systems were effortless. Testosterone flowed freely. Blood vessels were flexible. Nerves fired quickly. His body responded the instant you touched him, sometimes even before you touched him. But beginning around age 50, that entire system begins to slow down. Testosterone declines gradually, not in a dramatic drop, but in a subtle dimming, the same way the sun fades slowly at the end of the day. He doesn't feel it happening. You don't see it happening, but his body does. It affects his stamina, his response time, his circulation, even the way his mind processes desire. More importantly, the blood vessels he relies on for arousal begin to lose elasticity. The pathways that once carried warm, strong blood into his pelvic region now respond more slowly. Imagine a garden hose that has become slightly stiffer after years in the sun. The water still flows, but not with the same freedom. Then there are his nerves over time, especially if he lives with stress, high blood pressure, or long hours of sitting. The signals traveling through his pelvis become muted. The sensation he once felt instantly now takes more time to awaken. For many men, this is confusing and embarrassing, even though it is completely normal. Let me tell you about a woman named Margaret, a patient of mine from Ohio. She told me, "Lisa, I thought he didn't want me anymore. Every time I touched him, nothing happened. He would say he was tired or stressed." And I believed him. But inside, I wondered if age had taken something from us that we couldn't get back. But when I examined her husband in my office, I saw exactly what was happening. His hormones were lower. His circulation was sluggish, and he carried tension in his pelvic floor muscles that made it harder for him to respond quickly. None of this meant he didn't desire his wife. It meant his body needed a different kind of invitation. I explained this to Margaret, and something inside her softened. She said, "You mean it's not me? You mean he's not losing interest?" And I told her what I am telling you now. His desire didn't go away, it simply changed its doorway. What once responded instantly now needs warmth, patience, and the right kind of touch that aligns with how his nervous system works today, not 20 years ago. This is why that hidden spot above his penis becomes so important. It sits at the intersection of his primary blood vessel and nerve supply. It's the one place where your touch can activate both systems at once. And when that happens, his entire body begins to wake up. His nerves fire more clearly, his blood vessels open, his breathing deepens, his desire rises naturally from within. And there's another layer at play here, one many women overlook. It's the emotional dimension of aging. Men over 50 don't just undergo physical changes, they experience a shift in identity. He may quietly wonder, am I still desirable? Am I still strong? Am I still the man I used to be? Most men never speak these doubts aloud, but they feel them. This emotional layer is why technique alone is never enough. You could touch him perfectly and still not get the response you want if his mind is tense or self-conscious. But when your touch combines with reassurance, warmth, and presence, something extraordinary happens. His guard lowers, his confidence rises, his body becomes receptive again. This is why your touch now has more power than it ever did before. Not because he's weak, but because he's human, and because mature connection demands more meaningful signals than youthful desire ever did. So now that you understand the inner shifts, the question becomes, how do you actually activate that hidden spot? How do you touch it in a way that wakes up his circulation without pressure, without awkwardness, without making him feel examined or evaluated? That's exactly what we're going to dive into next. And once you learn this, you'll see how simple, natural, and beautiful it truly is. Now that you understand what is changing inside his body, let me show you how to awaken the one spot that helps everything work together again. The beautiful part is this: you don't need special tools, you don't need strength, you don't even need experience. All you need is your hand, your presence, and a little patience. The hidden spot is located just above the base of his penis, in that flat area of his lower abdomen. If you place your palm there, you'll notice the skin feels warm, smooth, and slightly firm. Beneath that small surface lies a network of blood vessels and nerves that feed directly into his pelvic floor. It's one of the few areas where circulation and sensation meet in a way you can influence from the outside. Think of it as an ignition point. When you touch it correctly, you send two messages at the same time. One tells his blood vessels to open and allow more flow. The other signals his nervous system that it's safe to awaken. This combination sets the stage for desire to rise naturally rather than through pressure or performance anxiety. Here's how to do it. Start with stillness. Instead of moving right away, let your hand simply rest on that spot. Feeling your warmth is often enough for his body to take its first deep breath. You might notice his shoulders drop, his chest soften, or his breath become slower. That is his nervous system shifting out of tension and into receptivity. After a few seconds, begin small circular motions with your fingertip or the base of your palm. Keep the pressure gentle. Imagine you're coaxing something awake, not trying to push it. If you press too firmly, his pelvic muscles may tighten. If you barely touch him, the deeper nerves may not receive the signal. Aim for a pressure that feels comforting, like rubbing warmth into someone's hands on a cold night. As you make these slow motions, you're doing something powerful without him even realizing it. You're helping his body release nitric oxide, the natural chemical that allows blood to fill the erectile tissue. You're waking up nerve endings that have become quieter with age. And you're easing his pelvic floor, which often holds decades of stress, tension, or quiet insecurity. And here's the part that surprises many women. His body may react before he does. You might feel warmth spreading across his abdomen, his breathing may deepen, his hips may shift slightly. These subtle changes are the early signs that the system is turning back on. The goal here is not instant arousal, it's awakening. When you touch him this way, you're essentially priming his body so that when intimacy begins, he responds with more strength, more consistency, and more emotional connection. But technique alone is only half of the equation. The most transformative results come when physical touch blends with emotional reassurance. Without warmth, without presence, without a sense of safety, this technique loses half its effectiveness. Let me share a moment from a patient named Elise. She told me, "Lisa, when I touched him that way, the first time nothing happened, but he looked at me differently. I could see him wondering, why is she being so gentle with me?" The second time, his breathing changed. The third time he reached for my hand, and the fourth time he responded so strongly it shocked both of us. That is the beauty of this approach. You're not just stimulating his body, you're rebuilding his confidence. You're reminding him that he is not a problem to fix, he is a man you still desire. And once that emotional layer is awakened, your touch becomes 10 times more powerful. So now that you know how to reach and stimulate this spot, we need to explore the emotional trigger that determines whether his body will fully respond or hold back. Because if you don't understand this next part, even perfect technique won't unlock his full desire. That's where we're headed next. What most women don't realize is that a man's physical response after 50 is deeply tied to his emotional landscape. You can touch him perfectly. You can reach the exact spot, you can move with skill and care. But if his emotions are guarded or tense, his body will not fully open, and this has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with how aging shifts the way a man feels about himself. As men grow older, they often carry unspoken fears. Am I still desired? Does she still see me as attractive? Can my body still keep up? Am I disappointing her? These questions sit quietly beneath the surface, and even the most confident men feel them. Many won't admit it. Many don't even have the words, but you can feel it in the way they hold themselves, in the pauses, in the hesitation. This emotional tension creates physical tension. His pelvic floor tightens, his breathing shortens, his circulation becomes restricted, his nerves become less responsive. And suddenly you're touching a body that is trying to protect itself instead of allowing itself to feel. This is why emotional reassurance is the hidden ingredient that unlocks everything else. When you touch that lower abdomen spot with true presence, when your breath is calm, when your intention is connection rather than performance, something inside him shifts. He stops bracing. He lets go of the fear that he might not respond. He stops trying to be the strong one and starts letting himself be seen. I remember a patient named Ellen, a woman who had been married for 34 years. She told me, "Lisa, every time I touched him, I could feel him shutting down. Not because he didn't want me, but because he was terrified of disappointing me. So instead of touching him the way she always had, I asked her to begin differently. Place your hand on his chest first. Feel his heartbeat. Look at him with softness. Say something simple like, 'I love being close to you,' or 'I love the warmth of your body,' or 'You still make me feel safe.'" She told me later he melted. She said it was like watching tension drain out of his body in real time. That moment of emotional reassurance did something no physical technique could have done alone. It dropped his guard, it softened his breath. It opened the door for his body to respond fully when she later touched that hidden spot on his lower abdomen. When a man feels emotionally safe, his brain releases oxytocin, the very same hormone that deepens intimacy in women. This hormone relaxes his blood vessels, lowers stress hormones, and makes his pelvic nerves more responsive. His body literally becomes more capable of arousal when he feels wanted and appreciated, not evaluated, not tested, wanted. This is why the way you touch him matters just as much as where you touch him. If you approach with pressure, tension, or frustration, his body will recoil. But if you approach with curiosity, warmth, and presence, his body will follow you. And here's something beautiful. Your emotional presence not only awakens him, it awakens you. When you slow down, when you breathe with him, when you allow the moment to unfold naturally, your own body begins to respond differently. You feel more connected, more confident, more grounded in your own femininity. Mature intimacy becomes a conversation, not a task. As the two of you sync your breathing and your energy, his reactivity increases. His body listens to yours. Your softness invites his strength. Your intention invites his desire. Your presence invites his confidence. And here is where everything comes together. Once the emotional layer is open and the physical pathway has been activated, you can transform this gentle touch into a ritual. Not a technique, a ritual. Something the two of you return to again and again, building anticipation, connection, and trust. And that is exactly what we are going to explore next. Because when you know how to turn this into a shared practice, the results go far beyond arousal. It strengthens your bond, your communication, and the way you see each other in daily life. When you bring together everything we've talked about, something beautiful begins to happen. Intimacy stops feeling like a moment you need to recreate from the past, and instead becomes a new space the two of you create together right here at this stage of life. And the truth is, this stage carries a richness, a depth, and a kind of emotional wisdom that younger couples rarely understand. The gentle touch on that lower abdominal spot isn't just a technique, it's an invitation. It tells him without a single word that you still see him, that you still want closeness, that you're willing to meet him where his body is today, not where it used to be. And that alone can dissolve years of quiet insecurity in an aging man's heart. Women often tell me, "Lisa, after doing this a few times, he looks at me differently, softer, more open, more connected." And that doesn't surprise me because when a woman approaches her partner with intention instead of doubt, with curiosity instead of pressure, he doesn't just respond physically. He responds emotionally. He feels chosen again. This is how you turn the touch into a ritual. Begin slowly. Let your hand rest on his chest first. Feel his breathing. Then move your hand to that warm area above his pelvis. Not as a way to force a reaction, but as a way to remind him that connection is still alive, still possible, still something the two of you deserve. Let the moment unfold without a goal, without rushing, without expecting immediate change. The power of this ritual is in its slowness, in its honesty, in the shared space you create when both of you stop trying to perform and simply allow yourselves to be present. As you do this more often, something subtle happens in your own body as well. Many women tell me they begin to feel more feminine, more confident, more attuned to their own desires. They feel warmth returning where there had been numbness, connection returning where there had been distance. Intimacy after 50 isn't about chasing youth. It's about reclaiming presence. And presence is what makes a mature woman magnetic, not the way she looks, the way she makes someone feel. When you touch him this way, when you breathe with him, when you allow the moment to unfold at a gentler rhythm, you give both of you the opportunity to rewrite the story of intimacy, not as something fading, but as something evolving into a deeper, richer form. I often tell my patients this. Passion does not disappear with age, it simply changes its doorway. And once you learn how to open that doorway, you'll find that desire still lives there, waiting for the two of you to remember how to reach it. So tonight, when the world is quiet and you're finally alone together, take a deep breath, look at him, not as the man he used to be, but as the man who has walked beside you through decades of life. Let your touch say what words sometimes cannot. I choose you. I want closeness with you. I want us to feel connected again. Because that's what brings intimacy back, not youth, not perfection. Presence. Love expressed through hands, breath, and attention. The quiet kind of love that deepens with time rather than fading. And before we close, let me remind you this video is for educational purposes only. It does not replace medical advice. Every woman's body is unique. If you are experiencing pain, significant changes, or have personal concerns, please consult with your healthcare provider.